If you think being very healthy and full of energy at 91 sounds too good to be true, imagine also being a professional bodybuilder at that age. Actually, don't imagine it, because that's exactly the life that Jim Arrington lives. Jim Arrington was born on September 1st, 1932, and for most of his early life, he was known to everyone as Skinny Bones. Even as an adult, his height of about 5 foot 8 inches made it so that he was always the underdog at the competitions he was a part of. But before we get into that, let's dive into what inspired him to choose the bodybuilding path. It wasn't until he was 13 years old that Arrington became captivated by a bodybuilding magazine that crossed his path while shopping for comic books. And ever since then, he's dedicated his life to being a bodybuilder for as long as he possibly can, which at this point seems to be forever. In fact, even at his age, Arrington keeps modeling his hard-earned body for magazines as big as Men's Health, as well as competing in professional bodybuilding tournaments very often. However, even though Arrington has dedicated most of his life to perfecting his body, he didn't become a professional stage bodybuilder until his mid-40s. So how did Jim perfect his craft before that? And how does he keep his energy and dedication to a healthy lifestyle even at this age? Well, the first and most important tip Arrington has to offer, which was given to him by none other than Mr. Universe 1975 himself, Ken Waller, is to experiment until you find what works for you. At first, even Arrington thought Waller just didn't want to give him any real advice. But as time went on, he realized that our genetics and individual metabolisms can be so different that they require their own specialized routines. In the case of Arrington, he started working out when he was just a teenager, preparing his body for the eventual change to bodybuilding. Once he knew his body was ready, he decided to constantly push it to the limit at the gym, while simultaneously increasing his body fat as much as he possibly could. This first stage of professional bodybuilding is known to most people as the bulk phase. After Arrington had enough mass and fat accumulated in his body, he would slim down to contest shape so that his muscles had enough definition to win the contests he wanted to be a part of. And win he did. Throughout his career, Arrington has won multiple first places at tournaments like the Masters Nationals Championships and secured himself a spot in the top 3 at many others. Now, let's dive into the specifics of his process. When Arrington was in his 30s, he worked full-time at a sales office, but that didn't stop him from continuing to work on his body as well. While at work, he would constantly drink a mixture of 2 quarts of skim milk, 2 quarts worth of powdered milk, and enough molasses so the drink was tolerable for him. He even went as far as building a metal straw contraption that extended from inside his desk drawer, just so he could constantly drink that mixture throughout each day without forgetting about it. Arrington got the idea of this mixture from Paul Anderson, who at the time was the strongest man in the world and would constantly joke about his routine of doing a set of squats and then drinking a quart of milk multiple times in a row. Other than the mixture, Arrington's day-to-day meals also included other sources of protein, like cottage cheese, fish, chicken, and beef, always making sure that he's constantly keeping up with his high-protein and healthy fat diet, as well as keeping count of the calories for each meal. This diet has allowed Arrington to gain as much as 65 extra pounds of body mass in just one bulking season, doing so in just about 9 months and going from 150 pounds to a total of 215 pounds. When the cutting phase that followed that bulking season started, he lost 35 pounds of fat in just 56 days. If you're not familiar with what a cutting phase or cutting diet is, it mostly consists of reducing as much body fat as possible so that only the previously achieved muscle mass remains. Typically, a cutting diet consists of foods such as lean meats, yogurt, whole grains, and so on. But as the years passed, his aging body prompted Arrington to experiment with diets and books such as The Longevity Paradox by Dr. Stephen Grundy. which recommend eating foods such as mushrooms, olive oil, sweet potatoes, and a variety of other vegetables. Other than that, Arrington normally uses things like optimum protein and olive oil when he wants to recover quickly from an intense workout session, mostly because he doesn't eat mainstream carbohydrates anymore. In fact, he always says that olive oil has been his main source of fat for quite a while now. When it comes to the workout part of the process, Arrington, like most bodybuilders, would always divide his body into multiple focused sections, so that they were easier to manage throughout the intense day-to-day training sessions at the gym. That is, unless he was having difficulties with a particular muscle section of his body. He would focus entirely on that section for weeks in a row, if need be. For example, in an interview with Men's Health, Arrington stated that while he was in college, he was mostly happy with the amount of weight he was lifting with most of his exercises, except squats. Because of that, he stopped working on every other muscle except his legs for an entire week, constantly increasing the weight of his squats both per set and per day, until he realized he could easily squat 80 pounds more than his previous limit, even in regular street clothes, going from 220 pounds to a total of 300 pounds. Now that he's 91 years old, Arrington obviously cannot train with the same intensity as a young bodybuilder, but he still makes sure to work his legs on Mondays, his mid-body and back on Wednesdays, and his shoulders and arms on Fridays. But why does Jim Arrington keep training, even at this age? Well, not only is bodybuilding his lifelong passion, like we previously mentioned, but he also feels a sense of duty towards all the people that are inspired by him at his gym of choice, the world-renowned Gold's Gym in Venice, California. According to Arrington, there's nothing more inspiring and motivating than being surrounded by like-minded people who respect you and are inspired by you as well, even if he himself does not understand why so many people hold him in such high regard. This is when Arrington's next piece of advice comes in handy, because he's a firm believer that comparing himself to the people around him at the gym would only make him feel like he's accomplished nothing with his body. Instead, Arrington's focus is always on the respect, admiration, and kindness that people around him show him due to his individual achievements, and not on how he might compare to other athletes with better genetics. Arrington also clarifies that physical strength isn't really what's important for him, stating that even his wife overpowers him at certain tasks due to her bigger hands and finger strength. So if you need to open a jar, you'd be better off asking his wife instead. But if you need a professional bodybuilder, even the top champions at Gold's Gym in Venice know that it rarely gets any better than Jim Arrington. Because even while dealing with very small ligaments and bones and improper genetics his entire life, he was able to create a bodybuilding legacy that a lot of people would die for. Speaking of Arrington's wife, they've been happily married for quite a while now, but he has always refused to share his wife's name in favor of protecting her privacy, which is completely understandable. Unfortunately, as time goes by, Arrington is constantly forced by his own aging body to continue decreasing the intensity of his workout sessions, due to a few injuries caused by his worn-out tendons and muscles, including a big tear of his entire left bicep and a smaller one on his right one. But that still doesn't stop him from continuing to lead a healthy and active lifestyle, participating in bodybuilding contests for seniors, and being an amazing source of inspiration for many of us around the world. It's really disheartening, Arrington told Men's Health magazine, but you have to keep soldiering away, he clarified, emphasizing once more the impact that everyone's admiration and respect for him have on his life. He said motivation even helped him achieve one of the most unique accomplishments in the bodybuilding world, as he is also the current holder of the Guinness World Record for the oldest male bodybuilder in the entire world. Arrington hasn't shared much of his private life in hopes of protecting the privacy of those close to him, but he always makes it clear that his family has been a key part of his accomplishments throughout his life. And while we don't know what Arrington's next goal is, We're confident he'll keep breaking records and inspiring all of us to be the best version of ourselves. I hope that you were inspired by this video. Will you strive to live a healthier lifestyle? Please comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to Prosper Over 50, like, and share. Stay tuned for the next video.